Hi, this is Steve Adkins in the CUR 545 class, doing my presentation of my digital portfolio for our week 6 assignment. So we are to, all right. So this, first and foremost, I have to provide my own narrative and feedback to um, this class. I'm a teacher of only 5 or 6 years now, and I find myself as a very um, knowledgeable when it comes to technology, and um, as we all know, that the education profession is something that we continually are um, revamping and learning and building our trade. This class has been wonderful. As much as I thought I knew about technology, I'm finding many tools in this class to help me out. So this digital portfolio is one of those examples. I enjoyed doing this. It's something that I am looking to incorporate in my class just in the next year. Um, and I think it's a great way to help prep my juniors and seniors for things that they'll be able to do when they take the next step into college, which is a huge goal of mine, is to prepare them for that. So first and foremost, I really enjoyed this. So um, my portfolio. So I broke my portfolio up down by weeks. I initially had the tabs labeled by week 1, week 2, week 3, and that's kind of boring. So anyway, our title page for our digital portfolio, I have a week by week breakdown in my table of contents for what we covered. This is obviously it's not very descriptive as a table of contents should be. It gives guidance on what we talked about, and the main point of the assignments that we accomplished. All right, so my mission statement for our week 1, um, I really highlighted um, in my word jumble. I utilized the Internet Explorer logo. You can kind of see the letter E there. Some keywords that really um, came to mind when I thought about how technology is changing my profession. In light of COVID in the last year, we have had to take a forceful and very fast evolution to hold up our end of the bargain on some things that we promised years and years ago, that being our 21st century learning. And so while that is such a focus now, having those skills is more important um, than it's ever been before. So some of these word jumble ideas: 21st century, career skills, adaptability, flexibility, technology, literacy, accountability. These are all things that come together with this general idea of what education has turned into this year. Um, we looked at our ISTE standards, and we're very fortunate. I live in Nevada, and our state standards for computer science and technology are almost a carbon copy of the national ISTE standards. So when I went and I interviewed and reached out to my computer tech teachers to give me a little guidance on this, they had overwhelming things to say with how great it is and how helpful those ISTE standards are. Um, and obviously, this is applicable to every curriculum base, where how we can take our model of critical thinking and our models of rigor in our classes and apply it. We just need to be able to view it in a different light now. I know that my class in particular, teaching social studies and American government, hasn't changed to a point that it looks completely alien. I took a curriculum and I took a class that I had built and was able to adjust it and modify it to be at a technical basis, so from a distance learning aspect, and it's worked out beautifully. So it's very exciting. Okay, week 2, we had the media scenarios, 3 media scenarios from a variety of levels, and how we would respond to that. So in here I have the quick reference to my audio response to that. I'm not going to go through all 5 minutes of it. But here again, this was an assignment that I really enjoyed. Once the prep work for the audio file was done, I was using my phone and an application on my phone that I've never used for this purpose, and it's something that just kind of opened my eyes a little bit to the things that our students use their phones for, and all the capabilities therein that they don't use them for. So this was a very, very valuable lesson for me, to be able to do this, and as easy it was to download or rather upload it to this program and offer my commentary on these things. It felt very gratifying in that. Okay. The following week, we did our lunch and learn. And so I have a link here. I opened in another file or another tab, but our lunch and learn file, where, you know, we went through and looked at, you know, something that we could learn in a short period of time. And I looked specifically at some ideas for helping break down barriers for teachers that don't necessarily feel comfortable with technology. And this has been a big problem in my school, is especially our older teachers who have been teaching with pencil and paper their whole careers, to suddenly now have to apply themselves and apply their curriculum to a digital standpoint, is a daunting task. And they're also easily intimidated by technology. And so to plan a lunch and learn for facilitating these activities and looking at what we could do, and helping these people build a lot of confidence, is a big thing. And I know when school started back in August for us, I did a lot of this without planning a lunch and learn. This was purely my own motivation to help my colleagues get ready for what is otherwise a very uncomfortable setting, because nobody was really sure what school was going to be like, going back to school in a hybrid model, having some kids in person and some kids looking at us down the lens of a screen or of a camera. So this hit home very closely for me. And I went through and talked about some platforms, and I talked about what might work, and some conferencing software, and some things like that. And I actually took this and showed this with some of my colleagues, and they thoroughly enjoyed it and asked if we could actually use this in a model for us to do a lunch and learn. So again, very, very gratifying to be able to see our work in the class being applied, like within days of actually doing it. All right, then let's see here. The following week we looked at emerging trends in educational technology, and so we looked at a couple of them, specifically looking at AI was a very interesting one for me. Was researching how AI could help augment education for students that need special education or other types of additional help. And fascinating to see how these otherwise somewhat Hollywood ideas are very relevant and very real for education, and to see how they could be applied, and they are being applied in situations where they could seriously benefit some of those students who maybe don't adapt to a traditional education setting very well, and also put them into some scenarios that they may not be able to otherwise experience without some issues. Okay. Then the following week, we went to legal and ethical issues, and we looked up a whole bunch of resources focusing on three main points: copy and fair use of Creative Commons, FERPA, and plagiarism and academic dishonesty. And as for all of the benefits that technology brings to education, it does open some doors for frustrations and legal disputes. Copyright and fair use um, was, it's an issue for some. I think thankfully for us in education, so long as we're not using copyrighted products for financial gain, we're covered by a lot. FERPA is kind of I feel it's a tag that we all become so accustomed to very early on, because it's very it's very important. So my school district actually, in terms of technology, has gone through and refined, and we basically have kind of a blacklist, so to speak, of applications and things that we're allowed to use and things that we're not allowed to use in the classroom in order to preserve FERPA rights. Which I appreciate that they did that, because I mean, obviously we don't want to wind up in a lawsuit, but the FERPA was able to, or this list was able to help us navigate. The trouble is some of the applications that we're not allowed to use, capability wise, it's really, really good. But obviously when you start talking about minors using some of these programs, it can cause a lot of problems. And finally, plagiarism and academic dishonesty. I feel that our high schools are becoming more adamant about not only educating kids on the effects of plagiarism and the consequences of plagiarism, but also to help try to negate it from happening. So finding new programs like Turnitin.com that have plagiarism checkers, so that we can start to not only monitor and see what the kids are doing, but also for them to learn that there's consequences that comes along with this. Not that we're trying to purposely punish these kids, but have them understand that if they're to use plagiarism in an academic setting, that it is there's huge consequences that come with it. And we would rather teach them about it and have it hurt their grade a little bit now in high school, rather than them being, having disciplinary action taken against them at a university and having them thrown out of school. So this one was very, very helpful, and it was interesting to read through there. Okay. And then finally, week 6, we talked about educational technologies toolkit. And we wrote an email to our administrator. And this is a copy of my email. And I included the book that I recommended, Untangling the Web. Again, just kind of with this idea that Untangling the Web was really, really good, because it was a relatively easy read. It wasn't super long, 200 pages. And it broke down 6 different areas of technology and how it can apply to education. And the reason why I really enjoyed it was the number of stakeholders that it applied to was more than others. It wasn't just a how-to book for teachers, or it wasn't just a reference for students. This was a really good, very broad kind of ideas that teachers of all grade levels and all curriculum genres could utilize. And then in turn, students would be able to learn from it and benefit, as well as their parents. So you're talking 3 different stakeholders in the immediate, let alone, how far that reaches once the knowledge starts to grow. So, I mean, things about applying social media and applying classroom management programs and websites and web design programs and art-based programs and all of these things that even as a social studies teacher with 0 artistic ability, I'm able to create some projects that if I can do it, I know for a fact my kids can do it. And I think this, again, it just going back to kind of where I talked about with my colleagues, was being able to break down these ideas and break down the fears and help people build the confidence. Because as I say here, as we start seeing more teachers who are confident and excited about their curriculum, equates to us having, excited learners who then benefit from it to a depth that maybe we don't initially see. Okay. So that was my week 6. All in all, I felt it was a great project, and I'm excited to see this applied in my own classroom. Thanks so much for your time.